Hi everyone. Welcome to Mr. Darkness. If this is your first time here, consider subscribing and leave a comment telling me where you're listening from. Because I'm truly curious how far stories like these can travel, and I deeply appreciate it. If you've been here before, I'm glad to see you again. Now then, let's begin. It might sound strange, but if you've ever thought being home alone was fun, you've never truly been alone. I mean, really. No adults, no phone, no one to call, nothing to cling to except the sound of your own heartbeat. I'm 22 now, but I'll never forget that night when I was 10 and something inside me encountered pure, primal fear for the first time. It didn't come from ghosts or movie monsters. It came from sound, from the unmistakable feeling of being watched through a closed door. My parents had gone to an overnight wedding out of town, a good hour's drive away. Our small house on the outskirts of Clifton Heights was left to me and my older brother, Ethan. He was 19, in college, still living at home. I thought of him as a full-grown adult. But the second our parents' car disappeared down the street, Ethan turned to me and said, "I got plans. Gonna hang with the guys for a bit. Don't snitch." I remember nodding so hard I almost fell off the porch step. Having the house to myself on a weekend night felt like a promotion. I didn't even notice how cold it had started to get. I grabbed some blankets and a pillow, set up in the living room, pulled the curtains, opened my laptop, and queued up a horror movie. Some old slasher flick, kids getting picked off one by one in the woods. I expected to laugh, but the fake forest sounds in the movie made me notice the real ones outside my window. Wind swept through the bushes lining the yard. The floor creaked beneath me every time I shifted. A faint click behind me, probably just the fridge kicking on. I turned and caught my blurry reflection in the glass. Maybe it was the movie. Maybe it was me. I shut the movie off halfway through. Couldn't take it. My neck prickled, like someone was standing behind the sofa, and I didn't dare look. I jumped up, clutching the blanket, and ran upstairs. My bedroom was at the end of the hallway, next to my parents' room. We shared a bathroom. I brushed my teeth quickly. I didn't look in the mirror for long. Didn't want to see something else reflected behind me. Then I booted up my Xbox and played Call of Duty Zombies. The gunshots and groaning undead comforted me in a weird way. Made me feel like I wasn't alone, like I had teammates, even if they weren't real. Eventually, my whole team got wiped out. I checked the time. Past 1 a.m. I shut everything down and climbed into bed. And then I heard it. A soft times, click times from downstairs. Like the front door had opened and shut. I froze. At first I thought, Ethan. But then I remembered. I hadn't heard his car. I tiptoed to the window, pulled the curtain, and looked at the driveway. Empty. My stomach dropped. I didn't have a cell phone. My parents thought I was too young. The landline was downstairs, across a pitch-black hallway. No nightlights. I locked my bedroom door. The flimsy latch clicked into place. I jiggled the handle. It wouldn't hold. My heart began thudding out of sync, beating hard and wrong. I scanned the room. Nowhere felt safe. Under the bed was too obvious. The corners too exposed. Only the closet seemed usable. I slid open the door, crawled inside, and pulled it shut behind me. In the darkness, I crouched between old coats and shoeboxes, trying not to move, barely breathing, afraid even swallowing would make noise. Then I heard footsteps. Light. Deliberate. Someone coming up the stairs. The wood groaned beneath each step. I bit my lip so hard I tasted blood. My door opened. I heard them step inside. The floor moaned. Furniture scraped. Maybe a chair. Maybe a drawer. Then, silence. I was sure they were right in front of the closet. I held my breath. Didn't flinch. Every part of me screamed to run. But my legs were frozen. My arms locked tight around my knees. I thought, don't open it. Please. Don't. And then the doorknob turned. The closet door creaked open. Light spilled in from the hallway, and for a moment, all I saw was shadow. Then he appeared. A man, maybe in his 40s, thin hair, pale skin like a drained corpse. His eyes were deep set, sunken and black. He didn't blink. He didn't move for a few seconds. Like he hadn't expected to see me either. His mouth twitched. His face tensed like he was weighing something. I opened my mouth to scream. I didn't get the chance. He lunged forward and clamped his hand over my mouth. The hand was ice cold, dry, heavy. I felt the scrape of his skin against mine. His breath hit my ear. Damp, foul, a mix of mildew, rust, and rot. Then he raised a finger to his lips. Asterisk shh. No sound, just the gesture. He kept his hand tight over my mouth, his finger pressing into his lips. I could feel his fingernails digging into my cheek. My mind spun. I couldn't move. My eyes burned from staying open too long, but I didn't dare blink. And just as suddenly, he let go. He backed out and shut the closet door like nothing had happened. I didn't believe it at first. I sat there, shaking, teeth chattering uncontrollably. My heart thundered in my chest. Sweat ran down my neck, but I felt like ice. I stayed in that closet for what felt like forever, until I heard Ethan's voice calling from downstairs. Toby, where are you? I had never heard him sound that panicked. I cracked the closet door and whispered, "Up here." "In my room." He ran in, eyes locked on me like he couldn't believe I was still alive. Then confusion spread across his face. "Were you just in my room? Who trashed it?" I couldn't answer. My lips trembled. I stammered out everything. His eyes widened with each word. When I described that man, his breath, his hands, his eyes, Ethan just stood there, silent. We turned on every light in the house. The living room drawers were yanked open. His room, clothes everywhere, laptop gone. The back door, cracked open, the curtain still shifting. He locked it and called the cops. While we waited, we sat on the stairs together. I still had the blanket wrapped around me. Every few minutes, I looked down the hallway, half expecting the closet door to creak open again. The police came, took notes, asked questions. I kept saying I didn't see his full face, but I remembered the eyes, and the hand. His smell clung to me. Even after I'd showered over and over, they found muddy shoe prints by the back door. One officer whispered something to the other. No one told me what they saw, but I could tell it wasn't good. Around 4 a.m., my parents came home. Dad looked at the house, then at Ethan like he wanted to knock him out. Mom didn't ask anything. She just pulled me into her arms. Her hands were cold, but at least they were hers. Ethan was grounded the whole summer. No phone, no car. Had to work to pay for what was stolen. But I think what I lost was worse. It took me over 6 months to sleep without a light on. But I've never locked my door again. I wedge a chair under the handle. I keep a bat under my bed. And I always sleep facing the closet. Some nights, I still dream of him. He doesn't chase me, doesn't speak, just stands there in the dark, staring at me, and raises a finger to his lips. Shh. I think the scariest part wasn't knowing someone was in the house. It was knowing he saw me and let me live. If you're visiting our channel for the first time, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell icon to stay updated with our upcoming scary stories. I don't remember exactly how old I was, just that I was too young for kindergarten. My parents had recently separated, and I was sent to live with my grandparents in a small northern town. A quiet place where doors were left unlocked and everyone greeted each other by name. But that night taught me that quiet doesn't mean safe. I'd gotten used to not having my parents around. My father came to visit from the neighboring town every weekend. The rest of the time, I lived with my grandparents and my uncle, Uncle Danny, My dad's younger brother. To my young eyes, he was more like a mischievous older brother, always dodging chores, glued to the TV, or tinkering with his phone. I followed him around like a tail. The adults had told me many times, "Don't open the door if there's no adult home." I always nodded like I understood. Anytime someone knocked, I would shout out to ask who it was, and only opened if I heard the voice of my grandfather, grandmother, or Uncle Danny. We had a neighbor named Rick. Big man, dark skin, always wore a flannel shirt. Even in the summer, he was the kind of guy everyone knew. He'd bring over beer, watch wrestling with my uncle, help my grandpa fix the lawnmower, or haul in moose from a hunting trip. People saw him as a friend. To me, he felt like another uncle. One winter evening, my grandmother went to a book club gathering at the town's community center. I clearly remember watching cartoons when I got hungry for cookies and called her to come home early. My grandpa offered to drive over and pick her up, asking if I wanted to come. I shook my head. The cartoon was getting to the funny part. Before leaving, he turned back and reminded me, like always, remember, don't open the door. No matter who knocks. I nodded. He patted my head, smiled, and walked out. The truck engine rumbled. Tires crunched over the driveway, and then it was gone. As soon as it disappeared, the house felt too quiet. No kettle whistling, no Uncle Danny messing with his phone, no footsteps creaking on the wooden floor, just the TV humming in the background. Then, 3 knocks, evenly spaced. I flinched, heart pounding. I walked up to the door and yelled, "Who is it?" A familiar voice replied, "It's Rick. Open up for a sec." I breathed a little easier. "My grandparents aren't home." Rick answered quickly, "I know. Just saw your grandpa's truck leave." He paused. "I called Danny earlier. He said he's at a friend's drinking. Asked me to grab the drill your grandpa borrowed last week." I froze. He wasn't wrong. Grandpa had just left, and Uncle Danny wasn't home. But why did Rick come right after they left? I hesitated. I'm not supposed to open the door without an adult. I'm not a stranger. He chuckled. "You know me. I'm your neighbor." That made my young mind reel. He was right. I did know him. He helped fix the mower. I'd sat on his lap during football games. I unlocked the door. My hand trembled slightly. The latch clicked. The door creaked open. Rick stood there, tall, quiet. His eyes were bloodshot. His breath smelled like beer. He smiled, but only half his mouth moved. I instinctively stepped back. He stepped in and placed both hands on my shoulders. His palms were heavy and damp. I said, "You can wait in the kitchen. I'll go back to my cartoons." But he didn't let go of my shoulders. His grip tightened. His voice dropped. It wasn't Rick's voice anymore. "Want to know a secret?" Before I could respond, he started saying strange things. Slurred, but sharp. Words that made my back go cold. I didn't understand them all, but I knew they were wrong. He pulled me toward the kitchen. I tried resisting, but my body felt like stone. He grabbed a large kitchen knife from the rack. The light glinted off the dull blade. "You want to get stabbed?" I cried. My vision blurred. I opened my mouth to scream. He clamped a hand over it. The other hand pressed the knife to my stomach. "Shut up. Scream and I cut your tongue." He dragged the flat edge of the blade across my neck. Not sharp enough to cut, but enough to leave a red line. Enough to convince me he meant it. And then, I heard the familiar truck turning into the driveway. Tires grinding snow. Doors slamming. Rick turned his head toward the front. I saw his eyes change. Calculating. He spun me around, hand still over my mouth, the knife still tight against me. We both faced the front door just as my grandmother stepped inside. She froze. Her face drained of color. "Oh God," she screamed. "Honey, come inside." Now, moments later, I heard my grandfather's footsteps storming through the porch. The front door slammed open so hard it shook the frame. He barreled into the kitchen. Rick flinched and turned. I was thrown aside, hitting the edge of the table. Everything exploded. Chairs crashing, glass breaking, a howl like an animal in pain. My grandpa tackled Rick to the floor. The knife slipped from his hand, sliding under the cabinet. My grandma screamed and rushed to pull me away, shielding me in her arms. I caught a glimpse of my grandpa pinning Rick down, yelling, "I warned you." My grandma pressed my head to her chest, covered my ears, but through her hands, I still heard the sounds: fists thudding, furniture dragging, ragged breaths. I didn't look. I couldn't stop trembling. Finally, silence. Then my grandpa's heavy breathing. Then the door creaked open again. Rick stumbled out, bloodied. My grandpa blocked the doorway, blood running from a cut on his brow. "Get out. I see you again. You're dead." Rick said nothing. He staggered away, disappearing behind the old pine trees near the fence. My grandpa stood there for a long time before shutting the door. Grandma helped him into a chair. I was still clinging to her. His face was bruised. One eyebrow split open, but his eyes were locked on me. "You okay?" he asked. Grandma brought the first aid kit from the bathroom and cleaned his wound. The cut wasn't deep, but the bruising spread across his cheek. He winced but never complained. "Doesn't need stitches," he muttered. I sat there, trembling, wrapped in my grandma's arms. The air still smelled like cotton, antiseptic, and steel. I closed my eyes, but I knew it wasn't over. I never saw Rick again after that night. No one in the town ever spoke of him again. My family never mentioned it either, like it had been locked away, a secret kept by those who survived. Almost 15 years later, I returned to the old house for the first time, to help my grandmother clean out the shed after my grandfather moved into assisted living. That little shed at the back of the yard was where I'd once played hide and seek, where I'd seen Grandpa and Rick haul and moose. Now it smelled of rot and dust. While moving old cardboard boxes, I found a rusted metal chest hidden behind a tarp covering fishing gear. I almost left it alone, but something made me reach for it. The lock snapped after a few twists. Inside were old papers, a small notebook, and beneath it, wrapped in oilcloth, a large kitchen knife. No mistaking it. Same dull blade, same chipped wooden handle. I remembered it like a scar. I opened the notebook. My grandpa's handwriting, neat, firm. Only a few lines on the first page, undated. Some things don't need police. Some things have to be handled your own way. I only protected my family, and I'd do it again if I had to. I sat down on the dusty floor, notebook in hand. No blood, no evidence. Just an unspoken confession. But I understood. He'd kept it. Not to shield himself, but to remember that he'd done what needed to be done. I wrapped everything back up, placed it in the chest, and locked it. For the first time in many years, my heart felt still. After that night, I never felt unsafe in that house again. And even though no one in town ever said Rick's name again, I know my grandfather never forgot. I don't remember if there was cake on my 15th birthday. All I remember is how endless and hollow that spring break felt. My parents were away on a business trip, leaving me alone in our eerily quiet suburban house. I slept in all day, lived on instant noodles, and spent my nights sprawled on the living room floor, either gaming or watching horror movies until I passed out. That night, I was scrolling through my phone when a call came in from Logan, my older cousin, 2 years my senior. He used to live with us for a while when we were kids. We weren't super close, but close enough that a call from him wasn't totally weird. "Hey, you busy?" Logan's voice was rushed, a little shaky. "Not really. What's up?" "Look, I'm in a bit of a situation. I need a huge favor. Can Tyler stay at your place tonight?" I blinked. "Tyler? I thought he was with you?" "He was, but he just got out of inpatient care. My dad doesn't want him at home tonight. I'm stuck." My stomach tightened. Tyler had stayed with us once when he was about 10 and drove everyone insane. He locked our cat in the freezer, whispered into electrical outlets, set his own hair on fire to cleanse sin. He was sent away for treatment after that. I hesitated. Logan pleaded. Just one night, please, man. I'll get you that new gaming gear you wanted, swear. Like an idiot, I said yes. The moment I hung up, I regretted it. Half an hour later, the doorbell rang. When I opened it, Tyler stood there, taller, thinner, but those eyes. I recognized that cold, hollow stare instantly. He wore a hoodie and clutched an old stuffed animal. Hey, he muttered, then walked right in without waiting for me. I shut the door behind him. You want the guest room or... Whichever one doesn't have a mirror, he replied without looking at me. I swallowed. I guess mine's okay. He wandered around the house, inspecting windows, running his fingers along the locks. I asked, "What are you doing?" Tyler turned to me and smiled. "Just making sure they don't get in tonight." My heartbeat thudded. I should have called Logan right then, but I didn't. Later, in the kitchen, I found him staring into the black screen of the powered-off TV, like he was watching something move inside it. Then he turned to me. You know those reflections in mirrors and TVs? They're not really you, they're your second self. I forced a laugh. Where'd you read that? He lifted the stuffed animal. He told me. I was speechless. Tyler didn't sleep that night. He sat on the floor, back to the wall, whispering to his stuffed toy, eyes wide open. Around 2 I woke up to soft clinking sounds. When I peeked out, he was wrapping dental floss, yards of it, around every doorknob in the house. What the hell are you doing? I blurted. He didn't answer. He just looked at me and slowly raised one hand and smiled. Not manically, calmly, like everything was going exactly the way it was supposed to. When I stepped closer, I saw chalk markings all over the door frames. Some looked like eyes, others were spirals or symbols I didn't recognize. I'd had enough. You're leaving. Now. Tyler didn't move. He slowly turned his head. Where would you take me? When they're already inside. I took a step back. My mouth was dry. I could hear the hum of the fridge behind me, but even that comforting sound now felt distorted, too low, too alive. I tried to steady my voice. Stop messing around. He tilted his head slightly, then began humming. A slow, tuneless hum. It was the kind of sound that made your skin crawl, not because it was loud, but because it felt wrong, like it didn't belong in the space between walls. I moved toward the front door, trying not to show panic. Tyler just watched, still humming, still smiling. He reached up and traced something invisible in the air, his finger moving in slow circles, as if drawing something only he could see. Then he whispered, "You're not real yet." In that exact moment, I caught my reflection in the glass of the display cabinet. But something was wrong. My reflection wasn't standing the same way. Its hand was raised, and its face wasn't mine. It was almost mine, but older and grinning. I screamed, fumbled with the front door. My hands were shaking so badly I dropped the keys. Tyler didn't stop me. He just watched as I stepped outside, then calmly shut the door behind me. I called Logan, my voice cracked. "What the hell did you just bring into my house?" Logan sounded panicked. "I'm sorry. I messed up." He stopped taking his meds. I didn't know it was this bad. I sat outside, shivering, until sunrise. When I finally got the nerve to go back in, Tyler was gone. On the living room table, his stuffed animal lay gutted, its cotton insides scattered, and in the hollow of its chest was a folded note, written in jagged handwriting. "The mirror in your bathroom isn't yours. Don't look into it." I wish I never read that note. After cleaning everything up, I nearly convinced myself it was all some psychotic episode. But a few nights later, while brushing my teeth, my eyes drifted to the bathroom mirror, and this time, I saw something move, just a flicker. But I was still. I turned around, nothing behind me, looked back. My reflection was normal again, but something inside me shifted. I told Logan. He went quiet for a long time, then said, "Tyler always talked about a spare self, trapped between reflections. He said if you ever catch that self waking up, it'll want to take your place." I laughed, but then Logan added, "He kept journals about it, since he was 10, even mapped out where all the mirrors were in your house." That night, I covered every mirror with towels. I stopped turning on the TV unless I had to, and every time I catch a glimpse of myself in a window or glossy surface, even just for a second, I feel it, like someone else is looking back. I don't know where Tyler is now. His family moved out of state months later. I try not to think about him, but sometimes, late at night, I lie in bed and hear that last warning echo in my head. The mirror in your bathroom isn't yours. Don't look into it. And sometimes, when I walk past that bathroom door, I hear a soft thump, just once, like something inside the mirror has moved. One night, I even thought I saw condensation forming on the inside of the glass, as if someone had breathed on it from the other side. I didn't stay to check. I shut the door and shoved a towel under the crack. Now, I avoid that bathroom altogether. I use the one downstairs. But even then, sometimes I catch myself holding my breath in front of the mirror, afraid I might fog it up, and see a message written in the mist. I don't know what it would say, and honestly, I don't want to find out. I was 10 years old when this happened. That afternoon, my mom asked if I wanted to come grocery shopping with her, but I remember flat out refusing. It was warm, sunny, perfect basketball weather. I told her I'd just shoot hoops out front, that nothing bad would happen in a few hours. Eventually, she gave in. As soon as her car disappeared down the street, I bolted into the garage, grabbed my old basketball, and started playing in the driveway. I made up little games for myself, pretending I had 3 seconds left on the clock and needed one last shot to win. I ran until my shirt stuck to my back, pausing only to breathe and scan the quiet neighborhood. That's when I looked up at the house and saw someone watching me from the upstairs window. At first, it was just a shape in the shadows, as if someone stood back from the sunlit glass. I stared. After a second, the shape shifted. Definitely not a trick of the light. Someone was standing in my sister's bedroom window, half hidden by the curtain. I dropped the ball. No one else was supposed to be home. My sister was off at college. My dad was at work. My mom had just left. I ran through the side gate, into the backyard, and straight through the back door, slamming it behind me. I shouted upstairs, asking if anyone was home. My voice cracked. Silence. Then a voice called back, "Rad, come up here." It wasn't Mom's voice, or my sister's, or Dad's. It was lower, not menacing, but off, like someone trying to sound casual and failing. I didn't go near the stairs. I darted to the kitchen, grabbed the landline, and sprinted back outside. I called my mom and told her someone was in the house. At first, she thought I was joking, told me that wasn't funny. I kept saying I was serious, nearly sobbing. I told her I saw someone in the window, and they knew my name. That must have convinced her. She said she was leaving the store immediately, then hung up. I think she called the police, because they showed up the same time she pulled into the driveway. She ran to me, hugging me tight, asking where I saw him. I pointed to the window. Cops went in first. Mom followed a minute later. I stayed outside, staring at that window, waiting. No one appeared. 10 minutes passed before an officer came out and said it was safe. I went inside. I pointed out the room. They checked under the bed, in the closet, even the attic. Nothing. No footprints. No forced entry. After they left, Mom said she believed me, but I could tell she didn't fully. She warned me if I'd made it up, I'd be in serious trouble. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay awake thinking about the voice and the figure in the window. Eventually, exhaustion won out. I don't know what time I woke up. Still dark. At first I thought it was a nightmare, until I heard it, a soft noise in my room. I sat up, let my eyes adjust. I could make out my dresser, my shelves, and something else. A tall shape darker than the rest. Still. At first I thought it was just a coat on a chair. Then it moved. A man was standing in my room. I couldn't even breathe. My scream came out jagged and loud. The figure bolted 2 quick strides to the window. It flew open, and he was gone. I heard his feet hit the roof just below, but before he disappeared entirely, he looked back. Just for a second. Long enough for me to see his face, and for him to see that I had seen it. His features were wrong. Not monstrous, not grotesque, just subtly off. His mouth was twisted into something too wide to be a smirk, his eyes blank but somehow focused on me, and he was mouthing something. The sound didn't reach me, but the shape of his lips was deliberate, like reciting a phrase from memory, over and over again. My name, my name, my name. He didn't look afraid, or rushed. He looked satisfied. And something else. His hands, when he pressed them to the glass, left behind marks, but his fingers were curved slightly, as if he wasn't pushing to escape, but to hold on, as if he wanted to stay. Only when I screamed again did he move. My parents burst in. My dad rushed to the window, looked out, then tore down the stairs barefoot, chasing into the backyard. Minutes later he returned, shaking his head. Nothing. The police came again, this time more methodical, took statements, searched, but he was gone. No one knows how long he was in the house. Maybe since earlier that day. Maybe he left and came back. Maybe he never left. All I know is, he stood in that window, he knew my name, and he was in my room, watching me sleep. And the worst part? No one knows what else he did while he was in there. That's what haunts me the most. But there's something I never told anyone. In that split second before he bolted, when he turned toward the window, I saw his face. Not clearly, just a flash. But his mouth was moving. He was whispering something. I still don't know what. No sound came out. But I remember the shape of his lips, moving rhythmically, like a chant. Not English, not any language I knew. When I screamed, his eyes flicked toward me. No panic, no surprise, just annoyance, like I'd interrupted something. The next morning, my dad found smudges on the window glass. 2 handprints. The left one smeared, like he'd braced himself. But the right, perfect. As if pressed flat, slowly and deliberately. Cops took photos, but they didn't find any fingerprints. Later that day, I noticed something else. My closet door wasn't quite shut. There were marks on the floor, tiny scuff marks that hadn't been there before. I showed my parents. They brushed it off, said maybe I bumped it in my sleep. But I hadn't. For weeks after that, I couldn't sleep in that room. I camped out on the couch. My mom said I was being dramatic. Then one night, while getting ready for bed, she called me into the hallway. She pointed to her bedroom mirror. "Did you write this?" I looked. On the glass, written in the condensation from her shower, were 3 letters. R.A.D. My nickname. Neither of us had touched that mirror. Neither of us could explain it. She didn't question me after that. We moved a few months later. Dad said it was for his job, but I always wondered. Now, more than a decade later, I still don't leave windows unlocked. I still sleep facing the door, and I haven't used the name Rad in years. I don't want him to know where I live. If you're visiting our channel for the first time, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell icon to stay updated with our upcoming scary stories. I was 14 that summer, when my parents went to Germany for a long business trip. They sent me to live with my grandparents in a rural area near the woods in Missouri. No Wi-Fi, no friends nearby, just a vegetable garden, creaky tin roof, and an old battery-powered radio my grandpa turned on at 6 a.m. Sharp. At first, I hated it, but after a few weeks, I adjusted. Every morning, Grandpa and I would walk a trail through the woods, picking mushrooms and wild berries. Lunch was always simple, the afternoons quiet. At night, I'd read or just listened to rain tapping the roof. The forest wasn't thick, but it was deep. Some paths were covered in old leaves, and Grandpa always warned me not to stray off. One morning, in early June, Grandpa was fixing a leaky pipe, so I went mushroom hunting alone. I followed the usual trail, but accidentally kicked something hidden beneath the mulch. A paring knife. Sharp point. Cloth-wrapped handle. It didn't look like it had been there long. I glanced around, but saw no one, so I brought it home. Grandpa barely looked at it. He frowned, then placed it in a drawer without a word. That night, I woke up to a sound, a faint creak, like a door hinge opening slowly. I sat up, thinking it was my grandparents, but they always slept downstairs. I didn't turn on the light, just cracked open my door and peeked down the hallway. Nothing. But a chill climbed my spine. I locked the door, shut the curtains, and laid back down, my heart racing. The next morning, I told Grandpa. He was silent for a long moment. Then he asked, "Are you sure you locked the back door last night?" 3 days later, I was watering the back garden when I noticed fresh footprints in the dirt. Not mine, and not Grandpa's. I followed them a few yards until they disappeared into the grass near the tree line. I grabbed a flashlight and followed them further. About half an hour in, I found it, a gray, weather-stained tent, hidden in a low clearing deep in the woods. Outside were a few cans, a rope, and a backpack. I crouched low and peeked inside. There was a thin blanket, a flashlight, some food wrappers. But what made me freeze was a worn leather notebook. On the cover, Spring-summer log. I opened it. Inside were lines and lines of small handwriting. Mostly timestamps and notes. 6:10 a.m. Old woman feeds chickens. 6:17 boy sits on porch. 12:20 house empty. Went in. Took nothing. 2:3 cat meowed. Bring fish next time. Some entries chilled me. He sleeps at 10:05. His door creaks. Needs oil. My heart pounded. Someone had been watching our house. For days. Weeks. There were photos, too. Grainy black and white shots of our porch. Of Grandpa. Of me sleeping. Taken through the window. I turned to run. And then everything went black. I woke up at dusk. My hands were tied behind me with thick rope. My ankles bound. I was inside the tent. A flashlight hanging from the ceiling casting pale, flickering light. My head throbbed. My throat felt dry and raw. Someone was sitting at the far end of the tent, back turned. I could hear soft rustling. Paper. Maybe. And whispering. He was repeating something. Again and again. You were me last summer. No one remembers. No one saw. I shivered. His voice was cracked and low, with pauses like he forgot how to speak. I shifted slowly, testing the knots. My eyes scanned the ground. Near my foot was a small, rusty pair of scissors. Suddenly, he chuckled. A broken, wheezing sound. Then came the scrape of metal on stone. He was sharpening something. A knife. I could hear the high-pitched screech of steel grinding on a whetstone. He murmured nonsense as he worked. Not his fault. But still, leave me a piece. I was frozen. Each shriek of the blade felt like it sliced through my spine. The metallic smell mixed with sweat and damp nylon. I wanted to scream, but even breathing felt dangerous. I began to inch toward the scissors. He kept muttering, oblivious. When I reached them, I used my teeth to lift them, then twisted to cut the ropes. They were old and frayed, but my wrists were bleeding from trying. At one point, he stood up and paced. Can't let him go. He'll tell them. I lay still, pretending to be unconscious. Sweat poured down my face. Finally, I cut through. I waited until he turned away, then sprang up. In a split second, I kicked over the flashlight to create confusion and dove through the tent flap. He roared behind me. I ran. I tripped over roots, scraped my knees on stones. My legs were bleeding, but I didn't stop. I heard him crashing through branches, his breath ragged and loud. I turned sharply, ducked behind a tree. His footsteps stopped. He was close. I heard him whisper, "Just feet away. You're not real. I'm the real one." I threw a rock to the left, then bolted right. After 20 minutes of blind running, I saw the porch light from Grandpa's house. I screamed, collapsed in the yard. My grandparents ran out. I could barely speak. Someone, in the woods, watching us. Police came that night. They found the tent, the notebook, but the man was gone. 3 days later, they caught him a few miles away at an abandoned gas station. He still had my photo, and a hand-drawn map, a trail leading straight from the woods to my grandparents' back door. One officer later told Grandpa, "We've seen a tent like that in Oregon once. Same kind of notebook. Watching another family. But that family hadn't realized in time. I never went back to that house again." If you're visiting our channel for the first time, don't forget to hit the subscribe button and turn on the bell icon to stay updated with our upcoming scary stories.